It was raining, the kind of rain that makes the city feel guilty. The kind that washes blood into the gutters and secrets into the dark. Jason Miller was still awake at 11:46 p.m., sitting on the edge of his bed, counting unpaid bills, when the knock came. 3 sharp knocks, not loud, not angry, just certain. By the time he opened the door, the hallway was already full of police. They didn't ask to come in. They never do. Jason didn't scream when they put the cuffs on him. He didn't fight. He just kept asking the same question, again and again. What did I do? No one answered. Outside, the neighbors watched from behind cracked doors, already rewriting his life in their heads. By midnight, Jason Miller wasn't a mechanic anymore. He was a suspect. The interrogation room smelled like cold coffee and old lies. They sat him beneath a flickering light and left him alone long enough for his thoughts to turn against him. When Detective Ross finally walked in, he carried photos like weapons. A man's body in an alley. A knife on wet concrete. Blood that didn't belong to Jason, but soon would. Ross didn't raise his voice. That was the trick. He spoke softly, confidently, like a man explaining something inevitable. Your fingerprints are on the knife. Jason laughed at first. Then he saw Ross wasn't smiling. Jason tried to remember where he'd been that night. The bar, the bus stop, the walk home, normal moments, ordinary memories. But the longer the questions went on, the less certain he became. Ross filled the silence with details Jason had never given. A fight, an argument, a motive. You were angry, Ross said calmly. And angry men make mistakes. By hour 6, Jason wasn't sure what was real anymore. They never hit him. They didn't need to. They just made him tired. At 2:17 a.m., Ross slid a piece of paper across the table. If you confess, he said, you go home tonight. Jason's hands shook. If you don't, Ross continued, this gets worse. Much worse. Jason thought about his mother. About how alone she'd be. About how tired he felt. And for the first time, he wondered something terrifying. What if they're right? He signed. The court called it justice. The jury called it obvious. They played the confession like a song everyone already knew. No one noticed how Jason flinched when they said his own name. No one asked why the evidence felt too perfect. When the judge sentenced him, the room was quiet. Even guilt knew when to stay silent. Prison erased time. Days blurred into counts and concrete and regret. Jason learned how to stop hoping, because hope hurt the most. Then, one afternoon, a guard told him he had a visitor. She sat across from him, eyes tired but sharp. Mid-40s, professional, a leather briefcase at her side. My name is Rebecca Holt, she said. I'm an investigative journalist, and I don't think you killed anyone. Jason barely looked up. He'd heard versions of this before. Hope dressed up in different suits. I'm not interested, he muttered. The bartender you supposedly killed? She continued, ignoring him. Marcus DeLuca. He didn't die in that alley. Jason's head snapped up. Rebecca slid a photo across the table. Marcus DeLuca. Alive. Older. Standing on a beach somewhere tropical, sunglasses on, drink in hand. Jason's breath caught. He's in witness protection, Rebecca said quietly. Has been for 4 years. He testified against a major trafficking ring 6 months before your arrest. The people he snitched on? They wanted him dead. Jason's mind raced. Then who? No one. Rebecca's voice was steady, cold with certainty. There was no body in that alley that night. The crime scene photos Ross showed you? Staged. A different case. Different victim. Different year. Jason felt the room tilt. Ross was dirty, she continued. He was on the trafficker's payroll. When DeLuca disappeared into witness protection, Ross needed to close a murder case that didn't exist. To make it look like DeLuca was dead. To protect his bosses. And I was. Convenient. No alibi. No money for a good lawyer. No one who'd fight for you. Jason's hands curled into fists. The fingerprints? Planted. Probably lifted from something you touched at the station. The witness? Paid off or coerced. The knife? Never tested for DNA because Ross controlled the evidence chain. Silence filled the room like smoke. I have documents, Rebecca said, pulling a folder from her briefcase. Bank records showing payments to Ross. Communications between him and the trafficking ring. Even DeLuca's witness protection paperwork. Sealed, but I got a source. Jason stared at the folder like it was a bomb. Why? He whispered. Why are you telling me this? Rebecca's expression softened, just slightly. Because Detective Aaron Ross died 2 weeks ago. Heart attack. And with him gone, people are starting to talk. His former partner, A clerk in the evidence room. They're scared the truth will come out anyway, so I'm making sure it does. Jason felt something break inside him, not despair this time. Rage. The exoneration took 11 months. By the time Jason walked out of that prison, the media had moved on. Detective Ross was remembered as a dedicated officer who died in service. No charges, no accountability, just a quiet settlement and a sealed file. Jason stood outside the courthouse, free but not whole. Rebecca met him on the steps. "What happens now?" she asked. Jason looked up at the sky. It was raining again. "Now?" he said quietly. "I find out who else Ross put away." Rebecca nodded slowly. She'd been hoping he'd say that. "Then I'm coming with you." And somewhere in the city, the rain still falls, washing the streets clean, while two people begin hunting the stains that remain.